Hey everyone, Mr. Devil here, Kenny Danico, three-time Stanley Cup champion of the New Jersey Devils, and you're listening to the Uncle Puckers New Jersey Devils podcast with Chris, Dan, Bobby, and Tony, the Uncle Puckers. Let's go Devils!
Wave the flag, boys. This was a big win. Devils just beat up on the Ottawa Senators 6-2, and we are the Uncle Puckers, Tony, Bob, Chris, here with you this evening, and we're going to talk about that and some other fun stuff. So what's up, boys?
Hey, how you doing? How's the holidays going?
The holidays are good. I mean, back at work, so that kind of sucks, but I'm off. Tomorrow's my last day, and then I'm off for 3, so nice. Looking forward to New Year's Eve. I kind of screwed myself, though. I didn't realize that the Vikings and Packers are playing at 8:30 on Sunday night. And I'm having,
having company.
I'm having company. And I'm like, so my wife's kind of like, well, you can't not hang out with the company. And I'm like, watch me. But then I was thinking maybe I'll just tape the game, stay off my phone, and watch it New Year's Day when I wake up.
I'm put the TV in the garage.
I am
ping pong and watch it.
Well, Dan and my wife will probably be the ones in the garage playing ping pong 90% of the time. So, they get, the two of them, they don't fucking stop, and they'll play all night. It's actually kind of crazy. Remember when we'd be out at the bars and, Dan would be in ping pong mode, and he'd just be dripping in sweat from head to fucking toe? It's like, dude, it's ping pong.
I remember Dan in Mortal Kombat.
We're at F&J's, man. Back it up.
What's that, Tone?
When Dan was in Mortal Kombat mode, we used to go to the pool hall over in Tom's River all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And he would just smoke cigarettes and just for hours just stand on that fucking machine, I mean, yeah, it was Chris, you're talking about football, dude. I'm kind of torn, man, because I was listening to the last show you guys did. I wasn't on it, obviously, but and you were talking about the Vikings. And
about not wanting them to make the playoffs.
Yeah, so I'm sitting here, and I have this weird thing going on with my team because even though I know we don't have a chance in the playoffs, we have a small chance to get in the playoffs. It went from 2%.
Now, would you have to actually? I don't mean to interrupt you, but for you guys, for the Raiders to make the playoffs, would you actually have to win the division? Do you actually have to knock off Kansas City, or can you get in as a wild card?
We have to hope for a couple of different. The major thing is if we could win the next 2 games and Kansas City loses the next 2 games, we win the division.
That's pretty fucking impressive.
Yeah, and the thing with that is that I'm sure you saw that Denver, they benched
Russell
what's his
Wilson.
name? Yeah, for the rest of the year. So we're going to face the backup there, who we had him last year. So I mean, we, but like you were saying last episode, I was sitting there listening to you talk, and I'm like, that's the thing with the Raiders. Like, I'm a Raider fan. I want to go to the playoffs, of course. Like the last 2 weeks have been really exciting as a Raider fan. When we beat Kansas City the other night, was just. That's my Christmas, man. That made my Christmas day. Like, that was just like, you can't ask for anything.
It was a fun game.
Yeah. Is Stedham the backup in Denver?
Yeah.
Okay.
Back in Denver.
All right.
So, you never know what's going to happen. It is the Raiders, but I got to say, man, I was, seeing Mahomes get chased around like that, it was definitely a great Christmas present.
Kansas City is not, look, the bottom line with Kansas City, they don't have wide receivers. That's the problem. And if you just, handle Travis Kelce, which is a difficult job. He's the best tight end I've ever seen play the game. But, if you handle him, what are you going to do? Tony, he's garbage. Like he can't catch anything. They have no wide receivers. So it's kind of fun watching Kansas City kind of go downhill. But as far as
O'Connell, no receptions. I mean, through no receptions after the first quarter and still won. The first quarterback since 2000 to ever do that.
Seriously, they didn't he didn't complete a pass?
I didn't complete a pass after the first quarter. It's the first quarterback to ever do that since 2000, I believe.
Wow.
And win.
Wow. Well,
I'm going to throw a penalty flag here and say that we don't talk football first after a Devils game like this.
This is true. We will get back to talking football but at some point. But you're 100% right. Let's talk about the Devils and the big win, Ottawa. Now, I had done that little power play episode this morning talking about the game. This game made me super nervous.
Sure.
I felt like this is the type of game, a team that the Devils should beat. If they come out flat and they start doing, if Ottawa plays that physical game, gets us off our game, and they did play physical, and we fucking didn't even give a shit. We were just, okay, you want to throw bodies? We'll take it, and we're just going to keep doing what we did, which is what we wanted them to do. I think if you would have written up a script for a Devils win, this would have been it to a T. Like we talked again, like before you go out and get a goaltender, you have to see what Nico Dawes can do.
Mhm.
Nico Dawes looked very good tonight. Super, like, just looked great. And I'm sorry, if Akira Schmid's in net tonight, I honestly think that, we maybe win by a goal.
Schmid lost tonight,
we maybe
5-3 in Utica. 5-2.
Was that Schmid lost 5-2?
Yeah, 5-2 in Utica.
Yeah, I mean, Nico Dawes looked really good. Let's hope that continues, because if you can actually solve your goaltending problem by just bringing up Nico Dawes and him and Vitek are your 1-2, I think that is the best case scenario for Devils. But okay, so Dawes comes in, plays good. You got to get the power play going, right? So let's put a couple of power play goals in that script, all right? And then, okay, there you go. We got that. And how about we get Brendan Smith a goal?
Yeah. How about you bet on that last fucking game?
I did. I bet on that on the last game, and I missed it by one game because I didn't make any bets tonight. But you can't, if you're just going to write a script, right? You can't just write Brendan Smith gets a goal. Oh, no. Brendan Smith has to get a breakaway coming out of the penalty box because he's always fucking in it, and that's exactly what happened. Like, it was crazy.
Poetic.
It was very poetic. We've said this team. I felt, and I think a lot of you guys, they're this close, right? Like, it's almost there. And when it pops, like, are they going to take off? Like, is that where we're at now? Because this was a win that I didn't expect. I honestly thought, especially when we gave up the first goal, I'm like, okay.
There's a history of us playing down, right?
Yeah.
So you had every right to
we're gonna, be in overtime 2-2 or whatever. And no, what do we wanted to see? Put your foot on a team's throat and don't let them get a breath of air. And that's what they did.
6 points from the Hughes brothers?
6 points from the Hughes. Bratt had 4, 6 goal scorers. Like, that's depth. That's what you need. But I'm talking too much. Bobby, come on. What do you got?
This is like everything you said, man. It's an absolutely terrific game. From the start, they're hard on the pucks. They're hard on the boards. They had a good first pass. They got timely scoring, a few huge saves. You sprinkle in a power play goal or two. And this is exactly the recipe of the type of games the Devils should win this season. 5-2, 4-1. It was everything you can ask. They outplayed them. They worked harder. They beat a team they were supposed to beat. Dawes looked comfortable and confident, didn't get a ton of work, but that's okay with me. A lot of subtle plays, a lot of things I just picked up on that I just really appreciated seeing. I remember this one play with Holtz where he was pretty hard on the board and he came into the zone. And, Holtz has been, again, shuffled down. And there are some fans, Devils fans who will say he's kind of a one-dimensional guy with a slap shot. But what he did is he came hard off the boards in the neutral zone, and he came in, and he did take a hard slap shot from the top of the circle. At the moment, I thought, that was a really great play, because at that point, all the goals had happened from real tight in. Why not test this guy and see if he's paying attention for a hard slapper coming from outside the circle, Sure, he made the save, but the play from start to finish was good, and then he had that great pass over to Luke Hughes. But it's not just him. It was just everybody. A lot of our big guys scored. A lot of the big names scored. People were getting hot at the right time. I think you and Dan were talking last show about, again, can we get everyone or most players playing how they should for a game? This was definitely one of them.
Yeah.
And this is just exciting. I don't care who the team was on the other end. What made the game so good was not the score. The score was because of everything else they did. Right. It's that simple. So if they play like this, they're back to that dominant form where they can just start to roll them off.
You said that it wasn't a lot of work for Dawes. But again, what have we been shouting from the rafters, right? Timely saves. We haven't gotten them. We got them.
Saves.
Got them tonight. Huge saves. That Brady Tkachuk breakaway, that breakaway on, who was that, Nolan? I can't remember. Norris. Huge save on Norris. But Tone, you stayed up until 5 a.m. your time to watch this game. So before you fall asleep during the show, tell us your thoughts.
That's the listeners.
It was a great game. I thought one thing I noticed different this game than we've seen in recent games is they came out right away. The Devils, right when this game started, they kind of dominated. They stayed in that zone. Everyone contributed. And I think one thing that I even looked ahead about when I was watching the goaltending, I said, man, wouldn't it be nice? I could picture, Vanacek, Dawes tandem. I mean, and I feel much more secure. I'll be honest. Like when Schmid's in now, I don't. And that's not. Hey, who knows? Maybe he needs to go down and get some starts. Definitely, I like Schmid, but I just haven't felt confident the last few games he's played in, going in. I kind of felt like it was, going to be a tough one to win. It would be nice to have those two goalies. I thought Dawes he looked big in the net tonight, and that's what I remember from when he played the 25 games 2 years ago, because this was like his first game, they said, in like 600 days, and for the Devils in the NHL. And I mean, yeah, it was nice to see. I thought nice to see Jack Hughes get a goal in there, because like he has looked like he hasn't been having a good time the last couple of games. Good to see him get in there. Bratt, just, overall, man, it was really impressive. But we needed these last 4 points we got, because Boston's not going to be easy tomorrow. Not that we can't beat them, but it's not going to be easy. And we just gotten 4 points in a row. So it'd be nice if we can at least get 1 or 2 tomorrow night.
6 points. They're on a 3-game win streak.
Yeah, 6 games.
Here's the thing. This is our third 3-game win streak all year rather. Yeah, all season. I said that right. And now we're going into game number 4, and it's against one of the best teams in the East in their barn. What do you guys think? They play like this, I think they can beat Boston. But we are god-awful this year on the second half of back-to-backs. I believe 6-1. So here we go with winning the first game, and it's going to be huge to see how these guys do tomorrow night.
Boys, the Rangers
time like the present,
too,
right?
So you guys know. I just saw it before you guys signed on. The Rangers lost.
Florida beat them?
Yeah, Florida beat them. Florida's only 4 points or so behind Boston. It's crazy. Florida's
who won Washington and Islanders?
Islanders
were up
4 or 5
nothing
now.
Yeah,
so that's just about over. So we are officially leapfrogged them and are solid in the 8th position.
So we're in the playoffs right now.
Right now we are. Washington can't come back on that game. So right now we would have been above them anyway for percentage points, even if they had one. But now we've got that. Philly's going to play tonight, but we're 2 points behind both Philly and Carolina for second and third in the division. 1 point away from the Islanders for the first wild card, and so on and so forth. So it's time to just close our eyes for a minute and don't worry about that. Let the Devils just take care of their business, because if they play anything like they've been playing in the last recent stretch, winning, again, 3 out of 4, that type of clip, maybe go on a little bit more of a run, we're not even going to need to have this conversation.
And then they got Washington at, I think that's in Washington, or is that at the Rock? I'm not sure. Wednesday night. That Washington, twice we've played them, twice they absolutely lit us up. So that's a huge game. If you're going to be ahead of them, by the time that game rolls around, that's a 4-point game. So that's big. But tomorrow,
in
you
DC.
can't look. What's that?
That's in DC.
It's in DC.
Yep.
You can't look past tomorrow. It's a huge game. And, I thought the Devils played them very good the first game, but they had a lot of guys that were missing. So I think they're healthier now, and so are we. But, I mean, just the mindset after this game, how good they must feel going into this game against Boston, because this was the complete game.
Yeah, it is time, to break that streak. I think it is 5-1 or something like that, right? So
6-1.
Eventually that's going to flip. We're going to get a win. And it's time. And why it's a good time now is because we finally have so many different pieces scoring. And, of course, the rest of the team coming together, defense, like everything we saw today. But still, when you get 6 different goal scorers on a night like tonight, when you get a guy like Mercer, did you guys see that clip that they put up regarding his points? Remember in the beginning of the year, Mercer basically disappeared. None of us ever worried about him. We all, to a man,
for like 10 games.
Yeah, we all to a man said nobody's worried about Mercer long term. Yeah, he's not doing anything right now. Because of his goal tonight, he tied the exact pace he was on last year when he has career high in points. Yeah. So in 2021-22, 9 goals, 10 assists for 19 points. This is at the 33 game mark.
Yep.
Last year, 8 goals, 10 assists, 18 points. This year, 10 goals, 8 assists, 18 points.
No shit.
So he got that quick. We didn't even notice it, right? Like we saw him picking it up, but to that pace where he went so dry for 10 games.
Right. Dawson Mercer is the picture of consistency on this team.
Apparently.
And another thing, like if this, and I know it's one game, so we can't get ahead of ourselves, but if Nico Dawes is the guy and he takes that ball and he runs with it, and like this dude 2 years ago, man, and I mean, he was on a really bad team and he battled out there every single night. So like 2 years removed, 2 years in development, and now with a much better team in front of him, I was so excited to see how he was going to play tonight, and I was
100%.
Not disappointed. Like, Devil fans should be so ecstatic if it ends up being those two, and we do not have to make a trade for a goaltender, because that can go so many different ways bad. And who you're going to give up. Is the guy going to work out? Are you messing with chemistry on this team? And again, now you actually, if it works, we're going to roll with Dawes and Vanacek. Now you can go out and get yourself maybe one or two different pieces at the trade deadline to really shore up that blue line and not give away a king's ransom for a fucking goalie.
He really does deserve a lot of the credit for this win, because some of those timely saves were so big. I mean, I can honestly say if either one of our other two goalies are in there, I mean, maybe not all of them, but they probably led in at least two of those 4 or 5 glorious chances. And depending on where they were in the game, maybe the score flips 2-1 at one point. I mean, we did score with 7 seconds left in the first, so that did put us up 2-1. But still, there was a couple of timely saves, and then we scored right after. You know how that goes. So, one or two of those go in. This is a totally different game. Maybe we still win it shootout fashion, like you said, right? Just kind of wild, wild west. But we didn't have to. That's what was so cool. So, love to see him go. Love that he got the start on the road, too. I think that helps when a young guy comes up. Get on the road. Don't try to over-impress your fans, just do your thing. But in 2021 – I was all about this guy too. I didn't even know we had like anybody else. I just thought Dawes was just the next one. And he was the guy I was most comfortable with watching in that mess of a season. So it's great to see him.
25 starts. I think he started the most games for us that year.
Well, that's what they were doing with him. He was our starter that year.
Yeah, he was our number one.
I think he was like 11-10. Like he had his record wasn't bad. It was like 11 or 10.
I think he was one game under 500, but he was on a shit team.
Terrible.
But he battled every night, and you saw some glimpses because he did win some games, and he played well in almost every game. Like he kept them in these games. They weren't good. So
the way he made some of those stops today was just unbelievably smooth looking.
Tony nailed it. He looked big in the net.
He did look big.
He looked big in the net. Like there nothing. Like I mean, it took a fucking crazy bounce off Brendan Smith's arm to get a second goal.
That don't even count. Yeah, that was.
That's what it took to beat the guy
Brendan
tonight.
Smith cannot catch a break. The guy's a game.
That thing was going out of the arena.
That thing was going out of the arena. But you know what, man? It's like these are the mistakes I can handle when you're up by 5 goals. Or you don't want. This is the shit that he does, unfortunately, when you're tied or down a goal and you need to get, come back. And then
it's hard to even call it a mistake. I mean, the way that thing was going, off his shoulder or whatever
it's
it
not
was.
A mistake.
Right.
I have to admit, I was happy when he scored. I was happy for him. I was like, man, that must take such a, you're thinking about that shit all the time after a while. I mean,
I was definitely happy for him. They had just talked about how he kind of came into the system or into the league, and he was like, I see myself as a defenseman with some offensive upside. And they're like, nope, you're a defensive defenseman. And at that time, I'm sitting there watching it. And again, I'm like, wait, why is he in over Miller? I didn't mean it's not like I know what Smith brings to the team. I know how valuable he is to the team and how much he means in the locker room and stuff. But just on defense, I was wondering why it wasn't Miller. And then, like literally a couple seconds later, because I thought about it because of the penalty, and then he gets that beauty.
At the same time, we can absolve Smith of mistakes because of what he did tonight with scoring the goal and everything. But that first goal, the first goal that was on him. That was all him.
Knew it. You can see it. He knew it. He was pissed at himself.
Yeah, he had all day behind the net, and he, throws it around the boards right to Brady Tkachuk. There's not a white jersey to be had, and Tkachuk, sets up who was that? Stützle? I don't remember who it was. Batherson. Dude, the Brendan Smith mistakes on defense, and I'm fine with him playing wing. I am totally fine with him playing wing. The mistakes aren't there, and he's very good on the penalty kill. But I just don't know if what he brings, his upside outweighs his downside. That's the only thing I'm saying. Tonight, it did, because the whole team was playing good.
Sure.
And, you can deal with a couple of mistakes here and there. But I thought that everybody else, again, the mistakes that happened on defense tonight, that weren't many, but they were our veteran guys. Again, it was Marino made a couple of stupid plays. Smith made a couple of stupid plays. But our Nemec and I thought Ball played great tonight.
Ball played the most time tonight.
Yeah, he had 27, 28 minutes or something crazy.
The cool thing about that too is that for the most part, when there was a mistake, the team quickly bailed out the mistake.
Right.
Not just the goalie necessarily, but the team. Luke flubbed on one, and someone, I don't remember who it was, just kind of came, cleaned it up. So they never let it get out of hand.
No.
And that's what's so encouraging.
And their forecheck was on point tonight. They were fucking skating. Tell them, what were you going to say?
And they also, something that you mentioned last show, Chris, actually, they actually tried to get some of the garbage goals. They didn't, they had some nice goals tonight, but they were in front of that net hacking where, last game, I remember when I was listening to the show, because I had watched that last game, I was like, man, they just pass. I'm like, shoot the fucking thing, man. You got to put the puck on the net, it just wasn't happening, and they did win. Obviously they came back and beat the Blue Jackets that game, but it was frustrating because I was just like, you got to shoot. Yeah. And today I felt like they were much more aggressive in front of the net. And I don't even mean like physically. I just mean aggressive. Like they were just getting in there and just, it was impressive tonight. It was totally what you wanted to see from them.
And they dealt with the physicality that Ottawa brought, and they were hitting, and they out hit us a ton. I think like 20 something to like 8 or 9. Like we barely hit anybody, but that's fine. Like take the hits and just play your game. Don't let it get you off your game. Ottawa's not a very good team right now. They have tons of pieces, but they remind me of us 2 years ago. We're talking about Nico Dawes that year. That's what Ottawa kind of reminds me of. They're just all over the place in their own defensive zone. They don't know what the hell they're doing. And I think they're going to be so much better by the end of the year because Jacques Martin's not putting up with that shit.
I was watching the Ottawa feed tonight, actually, and I tell you, it's always different listening to the announcers, like how we see the Devils, and when you hear the announcers for the other teams who don't, because we see them every day. Like we talk about this all the time. When you watch, like say you watch baseball and you see a guy bat every day, you're like, this guy's fucking not hitting. Now, if you look at his numbers on the outside, you might be like, this guy's having a good season. It's different when you see someone every day. It was interesting hearing the Ottawa announcers today because they're very complimentary to the Devils. Like there's a lot of, like even guys that we get frustrated with, like they have a different outlook, and it is because they don't see it every day. They know. I mean, obviously that's their job to know what's going on, but it was just weird to hear. I always like that kind of, as much as I love to watch the Devils broadcasts and stuff, like it is interesting sometimes to watch other announcers talk about these teams because, you're seeing it through different eyes actually.
Yeah. When I go on ESPN Plus and I go and I'll just check out whatever games are on and stuff, and it gives you the option of what feed you want to listen to. So I try to listen to different ones every time. Like, I don't think I've heard, Arizona's announcers, so I'll put them on or whatever. And some of the guys are really, really good. And I enjoy listening to them, but I don't know if I've listened to the Ottawa ones. What were they saying about their team? What were they saying about the Senators tonight?
It's
because
been
obviously
it's been a disappointing season for them. That we all know that in a way because I think them and Buffalo may be having the two seasons that people expected both teams to be better than they are this year.
Yeah,
but they were pretty. I don't know. I mean, they were pretty positive. I mean, obviously they were very complimentary towards the Devils tonight. So I couldn't tell if it was more like they're how impressed they were watching the Hughes brothers because they were talking about Luke a lot, and there was like a lot of like it almost felt like I'm not saying they were in awe of the Devils, but it was kind of like they were impressed what they were seeing. So you couldn't actually tell if they were down. It was the Devils had I think a good performance tonight that it was hard for them not to point this out constantly. They talked about Dawes a little bit. They definitely talked about Jack. I mean, every broadcast I watch, that's what's cool. Like every broadcast, no matter what team it is, Jack Hughes is a superstar. I mean, it's just obvious.
Now, I mean, do you guys think this was the best game they played all season so far?
I recall a couple of games that we've said that I don't.
We beat Boston this year. That was fun.
Yeah. I mean, I can't put them right next to each other, but the feeling walking away from this game is that they did just because of the completeness. Yeah. Again, I don't care what the final score was. I don't care that Ottawa gave up 2. Like, don't tell me we should have won 5-0 and that would have been a more perfect game because that's not necessarily true. It was just everything about the moment in this game, that how they all played whatever needed to be done, whether it was a clear or just a first pass or winning a board battle or a time, every little thing that needed to be done was done against a quality NHL team that's reeling a little bit, but still they want to win. They're competing just as hard. So in a way, this is one of the biggest wins they've had, one of the best games they've had, because again, we've got a huge stretch coming up.
Their penalty kill. We got to talk about their penalty kill. This last stretch, their PK has been outstanding.
Yes.
And tonight, again, I think we took too many penalties tonight, but we were able to kill them all off. And then, this was like, tonight was, to me, complimentary hockey. It was score on the power play, when you can. We were 2 for 4. Kill a penalty, and then come right back when you get 5-on-5 and go get a goal. We did that twice. Mercer's goal and Smith's goal was like, that's complimentary. You're killing off a penalty. You're playing your asses off, playing defense. And then once you get the opportunity, strike. And they didn't miss. The passes were crisp all night, tape to tape. That Bratt goal was
nice.
The second goal. That whole sequence on that second goal was a thing of beauty by Luke keeping that puck in. And again, I think it was Heischer got it to Hughes, and then Hughes got it across to Bratt, and Bratt just roofed it. The whole sequence was beautiful because I don't know who the forward was that was pressing, but if Luke Hughes doesn't make that play, that's a breakaway, and he's gone. And you might be down 2-1. And we've seen that happen so many times. Instead, the script gets flipped. We score late in the period. That doesn't happen to us. We always get scored on late in the period. And that momentum was just, I honestly think it was our best played team game so far this season.
Yeah, and listen, a lot of things got to go very right on some of those plays for this game to unfold the way it did. But again, you kind of create your own luck in that regard, right? It's your hard work. It's being in the right position. Just, an inch or two off on a play here or there change the course of a game. So you're not always going to be this perfect and this crisp, but if you're playing to mostly this style, that's just recipe for success. And we've been talking a lot about what aren't recipes for success, right? It's kind of been a theme this year, just because, again, it's our job to kind of both nitpick and cheerlead this team, right? But this is a recipe for success.
Not many nitpicks that you can make about tonight.
No.
That's the thing. I mean, there's so many wins that even the Blue Jacket win. Like, I think Dan and I started the show saying, man, they really didn't want to win tonight, did they?
That's what I was going to say earlier, is that it felt a lot different tonight than it felt the other night, even though we won. Just felt like a totally different team out there. Because the other night, you're like, man, you almost felt like we got fucking lucky getting out of there.
We did. We did get lucky getting out of there. And the last game felt like we were on the same level as the Blue Jackets. And, look, we're not. And that's how it felt. Tonight, it was, we're a better team, and we're going to show you. And that was just something we haven't seen. We'll give a shout out real quick to some of our THP and Hockey Podcast Network sponsors. I should have went back on the DraftKings today and taken Brendan Smith for a goal again.
I thought that when he scored, I thought of you right away.
I only did it on the other night because he was on left wing. So I was like, all right, he's probably going to at least get more opportunities playing the forward position and not the blue line. And I was wrong. And all I would have had to do to make that bet was download the DraftKings Sportsbook app.
Oh, that's all.
And and to anyone who hasn't done it, this paper in my hand tells me to tell you that you need to do it now.
Shit.
Right now.
And
use code.
You got some money left over after Christmas.
There you go. Go bet it. Bet it all. Be responsible with it. Bet it all. New customers can get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on hockey. Tony, just bet $5 on hockey. You get $150 in bonus bets. So you can throw some futures in. You could take the Las Vegas Raiders to win the Super Bowl in 2024. And you never know. That's code THPN, which is short for the Hockey Podcast Network. Only, excuse me, on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. The crown is yours. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus. Age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Devils were not voided in Ontario tonight.
No.
They kicked ass in Ontario tonight. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2023. All rights are reserved. Okay, that's all the housekeeping we have to do tonight.
Yes.
It's fantastic.
Let's revisit a question from now, because now let's think a little ahead here. Does Fitzgerald go out and get someone now? Do we, like I'm talking about, do we get a little bit of toughness now? Like, well, we don't have to pay the farm, because now I'm getting excited about the Devils starting to make me see that what the team we can be. Like, I would love to see something be done now. I mean, I think it would be great for this team.
Who do you think they should go get?
It's a good question. I don't know.
You want a style of player? Is that what you're saying? You want another, like, just hard role player type guy, or were you talking specifically a goaltender?
I'm talking kind of both. Someone a guy that's to be reckoned with, like a guy that you don't want to play against, like
Chris Tanev.
Yeah, there's a lot of them out there. I don't know. I mean, I just think it's time that we get somebody now before gets closer to the trade deadline and everyone tries to rob us. Because I think that's, I'm telling you, we get in the playoffs, that's going to be we got the speed, we got the youth, we got the goal scorers. If they can all score together, it'd be a great thing. But I just think it's such a missing key and I think they should look to it now in a way.
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you think that do you want to see Nico Dawes a couple more games before you make any kind of decision on goaltending?
Definitely.
Okay.
I was thinking that tonight.
I think without question, you have to. You owe it to the organization.
But I think defensemen. I think like our forwards, I think, are fine. I think we have depth at that position group. I like that Chris Tierney can pop in and he can do a lot of good things. So I'm okay with the top 12 there. But
a disruptor is what I'm talking about. Someone that disrupt the game.
I've been saying that I think Chris Tanev should be the guy. I think that we do not have a player like that on this team. And again, when you have guys like Kevin Ball, who should be playing a more physical game because of his size and everything, but who's showing him the ropes on that?
Do you think he's just not him, Chris?
No,
now that I watch him a little bit, I'm just thinking it's not in him to be that kind of player in a way. Like, I think he's just a big dude who can, I don't mind his play, but I just don't think that's in him, that fire.
I don't think he'll stay in the NHL if he can't figure that part of his game out.
Oh.
He's not Dougie Hamilton. And he's got the size, but he doesn't have that offensive prowess that Hamilton has. He has to figure out how to play physical. I'm not saying that he's got to be the biggest thumper out there, but he at least has to use his body and his frame a lot more.
25% more at least.
Yeah.
He should be a guy who just consistently wins that one-on-one and the board battle and gets his sticks in the lane. Sure, throws a little muscle around. I'm not asking him to be a goon, but it is surprising that it's not. Like, I can't imagine him progressing through the hockey ranks where it hadn't been brought up before. With his given his size and everything.
I mean, he was always hitting. I know when he played with the 67s, and, he was a physical guy and stuff, but it's a lot harder to be a physical player in the NHL. A lot harder to time those hits and, know how to do it without taking penalties or without getting hurt or hurting somebody else. It's an art to be a good hitter. And I just don't think he has it yet. But I also look at this team and say, who's taking this kid under the wing? We talked about it on another show. And I think it was just Dan and I had asked Dan, and he had brought up like Colin White. Like, Colin White turned into that player, playing with the Stevens and the Danicos and those guys. And I feel like maybe a guy like Kevin Ball could definitely use being, not necessarily even being paired up, but just having another guy on the D-core that can play that style. I think Chris Tanev would do great on this team, and like I said, he brings an element that we do not have. And Tone, you have been the biggest one since day one talking about the physicality on this team, and that hurt us in the playoffs last year. Timo brought it, but nobody else did. But now we bring a guy like Tanev in, or I know Noah Hannafin's name has been brought up too, and I like Hannafin too. And we had the money. Like, if you can make a deal, we can go out and get anybody now because we got that LTIR money.
So we're going to need this in these Ranger games coming up. Some of these, it's going to get nasty here. Now's when it starts getting exciting. But this is also when you want to keep your guys healthy, and you have to have the guy to answer to because, you're at MSG, you're at no matter where it is actually, whether you're playing the Rangers, there's going to be a nasty game, and we don't. That's the one thing every time, even against teams like Philly and stuff. You have to have this, especially now. I think now is when the season starts really heating up. Like now, your wins and losses get much bigger. Now, they're always big. It's always important, but now it's magnified everything. It's getting to that point.
Right. What would you like to see, Bobby?
Well, on the defensive side first, again, it's a real interesting problem for Fitzgerald because we're not exactly sure what's going to happen with Hamilton. There were two different reports, right? It'll probably be back end of the season, maybe playoffs. Others saying, pretty much count him out for the year. Let's assume he comes back. If I'm Fitzgerald, I know two things about my defense. I want Hamilton, Hughes, and Nemec all on this team at the same time. And I want kind of that guy we were just talking about. So there's some interesting subtraction that needs to happen that we've mentioned before. Okay, maybe you don't worry about subtracting Smith because now you can play him on the wing more. So the names we've brought up before, it's probably like a Siegenthaler that just has to go otherwise, right? Because it's probably not Marino over him. You're not going to get rid of Ball. He's young, controllable. So, but it is still kind of an interesting dilemma because I'm not sending Nemec down, period. Even if Hamilton comes
Bobby,
back tomorrow.
How much do we miss Hamilton? I hate to say that. I know, and I like Dougie Hamilton, but how much do we miss him right now? I don't know.
I don't know either, but I know that we're a better team
a
with him. He brings an element. His track record of game-winning goals alone is something.
Yeah, I was just going to say the playoffs, and the power play has suffered without Hamilton.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of Luke kind of taking his job there in the beginning. I thought that was more of Hamilton's role, if you ask me. But now I'm sitting here looking at this situation, and I want to bring this up actually real quick because I don't know if this is actually a quote that Jack said, or if I heard it from a scout or just a secondary source. But I believe what I heard was something to the tune of Jack saying, Luke may be the best of the three of us. Mm-hmm. Now, I want you guys to think about this for 1 second. If that actually happens, if Luke Hughes winds up being the best of the three Hughes brothers, how fucking sick is that? Can you imagine a world where he's better than Jack Hughes on this team?
I think he can be. And
when I see his skating, it's unbelievable. I want to get my number 43 Niedermeyer jersey.
Niedermeyer 43. I tell you, Luke, and you've seen it since the beginning of the year, how much better he's gotten, how much he's grown as a player. His skating is ridiculous. I mean, it is so smooth. And that coast-to-coast goal against the Blue Jackets was just an absolute thing of beauty. And, we want to see the Devils, of course, make the playoffs and go on a big run this year. And, who knows? But you have to look at this team, too, a couple of years down the road. They're going to be so good. And when these guys develop, you're going to have one of the best blue lines in the league. And you still have guys down in Utica who are trying to get on this team too. What are you going to do with Seamus Casey when he comes in? He's a stud. We have this blue line set. It just sucks that right now we have a lot of guys on there that I don't think we were expecting to have right now. I don't think, we expected Hamilton, not Nemec. But I love what they're doing. I love how, and it's just okay, it's December now, and look how much better, especially Luke has gotten. How much better is he going to be in February and March and going into the playoffs?
And like you said, Chris, the future of this team in a couple of years is crazy. And I think there is a point of that we've mentioned before. Maybe we did overachieve a little bit last year, so our expectations are really high this year. We're good. We were good last year. But maybe, last year we just, like we always say, everything worked perfect last year. So not that we weren't good, and we're good this year, but imagine how good in a couple of years these guys are going to be and how young they are, Jack Hughes, I think I think Luke's great. I just can't imagine but Jack Hughes is just the perfect Devil.
So I just think that when these two are another year or two together on this team together, they're going to be so much fun to watch.
The Hughes brothers or
the Hughes brothers.
Yeah, it's going to be the Sedins, our Sedins, only maybe with some cups.
Right.
That's really what I hope happens. 15 years from now, we're looking back at the two Hughes brothers and their 12, 13, 15 years with the organization, everything they did. Because, I mean, to have two players that special from the same parents is just quite incredible.
And maybe down the road, 3-4 years from now, maybe you can go and grab Quinn.
Maybe you can.
I don't think Vancouver would ever let him go, though.
Nah.
I mean,
so Tony, to your point about maybe not missing Hamilton, could you ever see a bizarro universe where we really don't need him and think of the trade that we can get for a guy like that?
And don't get me wrong, because I'm sure when I say that, people are like, how do you say that about Dougie Hamilton? I like Dougie Hamilton. I like
we all agree we're a better team with him here. Yes. Right, but still.
I mean, personally, there's a couple times where I've forgotten that he's on the team, the last couple months where I'm not, it doesn't really weigh into my mind, where when Jack Hughes is out of the lineup or Nico, all the time, I'm like, man, I can't wait till they get back. And I don't even think I knew. And I've always been a fan of Nico, and I was a fan of him being the captain. I know people didn't love it, but when he was gone this year, I really saw how important he was to this team, I think, more than I even realized. And I think more than a lot of people realized.
Totally.
You notice when those guys are out. And I'm just saying with Dougie, I kind of like – I'm always like when they say Dougie Hamilton's, this is a report. I'm like, oh, shit, that's right, Hamilton.
Part of that, too, was this year, right? And how bad we were playing too, as a whole, because like last year, you would never said that. It seemed like every big moment Dougie was part of, and he started off this year really good. I remember at the beginning of the year we were having an episode where like he's on pace to like destroy what he did last year, which was insane. I think there was a little bit of hurt in there, and of course now he's gone. But I mean, I'm a huge fan of Dougie Howe. I would love to know that we're getting him back and think about the weapons we can have on the back end. Just incredible.
But you are right though, like. If Dougie Hamilton doesn't come back, and if they make the playoffs and they go on a run, and maybe they make it to the Eastern Conference Finals or maybe more, Dougie Hamilton becomes a little bit expendable. Right. If you feel that you have to make a move because we have to bring younger guys in, or there's somebody out there you want to go get, maybe there's another goalie at the end of the year that you want to go. I mean, you do have options, which is a wonderful thing to have. I think there's only probably, half a dozen guys on this team that are untouchable.
Yeah, it could be one of those trades where, next off season, and again, we're totally speculating. It's like one of those teams that needs to get to the floor, so they want to take a big contract, but he's such a big player, they've got to give up some assets or something. Like, it's crazy to think that we could even say we could get rid of him because we're going to be awesome with those three on the back end. But he's a $9 million player that Luke slid right in. Yeah. And we knew he was going to do it. We just didn't think he was going to do it that fast. And I still stand by what I said just a few minutes ago. Like, I didn't think Luke should have had first power play over him. Not after what he did. I didn't think he kind of earned that yet. Now, Hamilton's been gone. I'm like, well, now you're not pushing Luke out. So I think, what do you do?
I think Luke, another year or two, he'd be a better player than Dougie Hamilton ever was. Oh, I really believe that.
He'll be in the running for best defenseman quicker than I originally thought.
Yeah, I mean, we had said, in the net, we did our true false in the summertime. Will Luke Hughes be a Norris Trophy candidate, finalist in the next 5 years? And I think only two of us said yes. The other two said no. I don't know if anybody's going to say no now.
I think we stuck on the finalist part. That was the sticking point. But yeah, now I said it a couple, episodes ago too. Between him and Nemec, I don't know who's going to be our best defenseman a few years down the road.
It's going to be scary. It's going to be so much fun. But
Chris real quick, at the end of the season, Chris needs to bring out the book with all these predictions because I know I forget fucking everything, and tell us where we're wrong because I guarantee you.
The accountability session at the end of the summer is going to be like a 3 shows worth of accountability that we're going to have to go through at the end of the season.
Big blooper reel. You suck.
I'm like, what did I pick this week? What did I say? I'm like, what's going on?
It's just going to be this over and over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Over and over and over. I don't know if you guys saw it. I had mentioned it on the last show, and then I put it up on X. I was just curious, like, if there are people that are Devil fans that you guys saw that, okay, that live outside the metropolitan area and stuff. And we got a bunch of responses and some stuff and a little bit of feedback, and it was kind of cool. I do want to read one email that I got from this dude, Michael. And he took the time to write a nice long email. I'm going to read it. I'm going to save all the other ones until we get some more, and then we'll go over them. But so this was written by Michael DeCaro. All right, so he writes, "Gentlemen, long-time listener, first-time caller." Well, first off, real quick, he did title the email, "Hello, or despite what DraftKings says, Devils fandom is not void in Ontario." So
perfect, writes, timely.
A long-time listener, first-time caller. First of all, happy holidays to you all and your families. I saw this call out to hear from non-local fans and thought I'd reach out to share my story, but mostly to say I'm enjoying your perspectives on the podcast. From listening, it sounds like we're of a similar vintage and got to experience the highs of those Lamoriello pre-cap glory years.
But this guy's old also.
Yeah, he's old also. That culture of, but he makes a lot of really good points. Says that culture of excellence and prime Stevens, Brodeur, Niedermeyer, and Elias made the darkness and futility so hard to watch the last 10 years. Last year, it felt like the pain was over and we were ready to dominate the league again. That brought out a lot of enthusiasm and young voices, but it's nice to hear from people with the experience to remember the good, the bad, and most importantly, know how hard it is to win and be at the top of this league. So now that there are listeners out there that feel the frustration and disappointment with the way this season is going along with you all. Now on to my story. I was raised a Leafs fan growing up in the Toronto suburbs, but I had an epiphany when I was 11 and realized the Leafs as a franchise don't care about their fans. Whether it was Ballard, the teacher's pension plan, or Rogers and Bell, now the top priority was and remains profit. Luckily, I came across the Devils who showed me it didn't have to be that way. From the top down, the entire organization understood that when you make your sole focus championships and you build a culture of long-term winning, it starts with an all-time GM who knew how to win trades, build through the draft, negotiate, and most importantly, how to use the rules to your advantage. You build around prime Brodeur, Stevens, Niedermeyer, and Elias, surrounding them with great complementary pieces like John Madden, Peter Sikora, Jason Arnott, Bobby Holik, Sarge, Colin White, Gomer, Rafalski, and then you put them under Hall of Fame coaching minds like Lemaire, Robinson, and Burns to bring out their best and get them playing as more than the sum of their parts. That embarrassment of riches is what made the last decade of darkness we lived through so hard, because if you've never experienced sunshine, you might not mind the rain so much. That's also what's making this season so frustrating. I like that line. I'm hoping we've turned the page and will no longer be regressing to our awful early season form. I'm tired of not starting games on time. I'm angry that we can't get saves when it counts. I'm livid that we're committed to a system so complex that it leads to consistent blown coverage, has an atrocious penalty kill, and has vet D-men looking like they're playing Pee-wee pond hockey. It's way past preseason and October hockey, hockey when you could hope to ride a hot elite power play and outscore your deficiencies. Like you, I think until we change the coaching and goaltending, we'll remain a bubble team. I'm disappointed because hoping to fight for a playoff spot is not the Devils I grew up with. If your attainable goal isn't fighting for the cup every year, then you've got a loser mentality and will never win anything. This league is way too hard. We're pissing away entry-level contracts, and we might lose one of our last truly great prospects like Seamus Casey because we continue to believe in a coach and goaltending that just doesn't have what it takes to win a cup. On the plus side, Timo and Mercer are simmering. Even when Jack and Bratt don't look like they're doing anything, they remain a point-a-game clip. Nemec looks like he has ice in his veins, and Luke is doing shades of Niedermeyer shit. That said, time to stop messing around. It's put up or shut up time. Give me 3 or 4 points to close out the year and some 700 hockey throughout January, and I'll start believing we do some damage. Until then, I will be skeptically supportive. It's a very
Chris,
nice...
you reading off those promos have really... You're fucking good, man.
I learned how to read in first grade.
Banging that shit out, dude. I'd be like...
I do hope that was voice to text because otherwise his fingers would be very tired. But I'm also very nervous that he's coming for my job. So if you want to be an Uncle Pucker, I think you just auditioned well.
I wrote him back and I said, we'd love to get some, north of the border perspective on things. I'd love to get somebody in the Toronto market to talk Devils and talk just hockey in general. So I asked him if he wanted to maybe after the new year come on as a guest. So that would be pretty cool if he decided to. But I thought he nailed everything. So with that being read, let me ask you guys something. Can the Devils win a Stanley Cup with Lindy Ruff as a coach? The man is like third all time in wins. Mm-hmm. He's been coaching. Shit, man. I don't even remember the dude as a player. I only remember him as a coach.
I remember him as a player.
And he's never won a cup. Can this team go to the next level and win a Stanley Cup with Lindy Ruff? What do you think?
I believe they can.
So do I.
I think some changes might need to happen in the room. Some role pieces like we've been kind of talking about, and I think he can. I don't think there's really any reason to think he can't. I don't think there's any reason to look back at certain playoff years or whatever and say he can't get the job done. I just don't know that that's true. I think that he came within a foot in the crease of a Stanley Cup win, potentially.
That was Hall, right? That was Brett Hall.
So that was a hell of a run.
Dallas.
I just – listen, I'm not the hugest fan of him right now, and I don't understand some of the moves. But given the personnel he has and the personnel you can maybe assume he might get, yeah, I think he can do enough to put us over the top.
Tone, what do you think?
I'm going to answer this carefully because I know that everyone thinks I'm like a total rougher. And I do like Lindy Ruff. But
you like it rough.
Okay, so do I think that a change would be like the worst thing for the Devils? No. But do I think one needs to be made? No. And I also, not right now at least, and I also think we're all, as a fans, like last year we had the most points ever for the Devils, right? Okay, Lindy Ruff was the coach, but people still question his job. It's or they, he had nothing to do with it, they say. It's the team that had all those points. But then this year, they're like, oh, it's Lindy Ruff's fault. So you got to kind of, these players, there's a lot of things different on this team this year than last year. And you mentioned that last episode, Chris, and it's 100% true. There's a lot of changes that have just happened that a lot of teams wouldn't even how much of our roster flipped, right? And also we've had a lot of injuries this year, so much young defensemen, just a lot of, things that didn't happen to us last year. So I think Lindy Ruff, I don't think, he needs to, I do think we could win a cup with him. Do I know that? I'm not 100% sure. Of course not. But I do have faith in him because I think that he has done nothing but led the team in a positive way the last couple seasons. Is he the end plan? I don't know. We didn't know if he was the end plan last year. We didn't know if he was kind of there to set up the chips, right? We didn't know that. Right. We've mentioned that before. But I just think one thing about our fan base, that I do think they get on Ruff's case, and I get it, but I just don't think – this year, I think there's a lot of things that have happened. The reason that we have struggled early on in the season that is not about coaching. I think there's a lot of, like we said, a lot of injuries, a lot of young defensemen, a lot of mistakes we expected. You're flipping over. How much of the roster, Chris, was it? Did you say a percentage last episode?
Well, just the blue line in general. The whole, I think it was, what did I say, like 20% or something, 25%? I can't remember.
Seems reasonable.
A decent amount, though. And a lot of teams, that's tough.
It was definitely a decent amount.
Yeah, and I'm not saying, and I'm not saying that a change wouldn't change, maybe be a positive thing, because a lot of times it does have that effect. Look what happened over in, look at half of the teams that fire their coaches. There's always like this uprisal at first. But I don't think he needs to be fired. I don't think he deserves to be fired. I don't even think that he just kind of deserves to be talked about being fired right now. That's my opinion, like I said.
Look, here's the thing. If you look at every coach that was fired this year, right, none of them really deserved to be fired. The problem comes down to is when you have expectations, you're not meeting those expectations. You can't fire 20 guys. You have to, so the coach is always going to be the sacrificial lamb. It's just how it goes. Did Craig Berube deserve to be fired from St. Louis when they were 1 point out of a playoff spot? No. Did Jay Woodcroft deserve to be fired because Connor McDavid wasn't healthy and these guys weren't playing good and their goaltending got atrocious? Probably not. You look at Minnesota, right? And Dean Everson gets fired, and as soon as John Hines steps in, right, Gustafsson starts playing really good in goal. They start getting goals from guys like Baldy and things, the guys that hadn't scored the whole time. So it's just, you get that bump. Do they deserve to be fired? Most of them, no. When you are an underachieving team, which the Devils kind of have been all year.
But have they been in the last 10 games or 15
No, that's
games?
where I was going to go with this. I will reserve my opinion on Lindy Ruff for at least the next few weeks because I see this team kind of going in the right direction. And, if if it was just the amount of turnover that this team had, and just does it, maybe it took 30 something games to find consistency and find cohesion among these groups. Now I see our young D guys are starting to play a little bit better. And then hopefully maybe we get another piece or two to really shore that up. And then if Nico Dawes can step in and give us solid goaltending, then Lindy Ruff's job's completely safe. You don't even have to worry about it. Do I think that we can win a cup with him? I don't know. He seems very developmental as far as a coach goes. And I think that once that develops, and a lot of those guys still need this. They still need that, show you how to play, and teach you how to win and all that stuff. But then there comes a time where you're going to need that coach that can just, step on the gas and let you, hold you accountable, but maybe be a bit more of a hard ass and really kind of help this team get to that next level.
So,
I don't know if that's what this team
needs. This is like a totally not going to happen deal. What would you think about it's kind of funny. You think about Torts, right? Say if he came in here, and we don't want him in here, first of all. But I think for the end of the season, he'd probably have this team running like a bunch of fucking fighter jets. I think it would be like he'll destroy the team at the end of the day, most likely. But but this season, he would have that guy just imagine the intensity.
Well, Dan had said we were talking about that. Dan's like, give me Torts for a week. Just give me him for 1 week and let's see how this team does. Because he would have the fear of God in these guys.
But everyone might hate each other by the end of the season, but you're going to have a fun ride till the end.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. I tell you, listen, I don't shit on anybody's opinion that this guy can't win us a cup. Like, I totally get where they're coming from. I see why they would say that. But in the same vein, like the list of coaches that he just rattled off that won us championships, let's just close our eyes and pretend for a second that the Devils do win one in the next year or two under Lindy Ruff. You're going to add him to that conversation of Hall of Fame coaches with almost 1,000 wins maybe by that time. And you're going to say, wow, he was another coach. See, that's the type of coach that got us over the edge because he was, a Hall of Fame type guy.
You're right.
He knows so much about hockey. This, the old cliche, he's forgotten more about hockey than most of us fans will ever know. I don't think he doesn't understand what's going on with the team. I think losing the room is usually the first thing that really kind of changes. I heard there was a lot of stuff on X the other day about how much he was flipping out the players for not crashing hard at the net. They weren't doing the drill right. He's not immune to knowing how the team has to play. Occasionally they will turn a deaf ear, and then that's a problem. Yeah. But I think his knowledge alone, maybe he just needs a little more time. We got to give him a little more time, see if we can get it done. And maybe winning a Stanley Cup this year is not all as realistic as we thought based on the paper roster. Yeah. But then again, seeing what we've seen in certain games, we do know what they're capable of if they just put it all together.
So I think now you're going to know if he loses the room because now everything comes out so fast. I mean, it's a whole different world than, back in, say, 20 years ago or 15 years ago, you can finish a season without all the shit coming out. Now shit starts seeping out when a team starts losing and things go wrong. It's just the way it works.
And I don't think he's going to lose the locker room only because Jack Hughes is his biggest supporter. I mean, Jack absolutely loves Lindy Ruff, and Jack is the heart and soul of that team. So I don't think that he has to really worry about losing that locker room. I just some of the stuff he does, like we've said it a million times. Like, is he a genius or is he crazy or is it both? Like, we don't know.
It's a mixture.
It is. He's like a mad scientist. He's a fucking mad genius. But that's right now how this team has kind of been upward trajectory, and not just we've gone on 3-game winning streaks before, but it kind of feels a little different right this time. Like the team just looks it looks like it's all about to pop, and and
it's easy for us now, again, retrospect, right? It's such a powerful thing. Now we're taking a little bit of a deeper look back and say, okay, Mercer was in a slump, Meyer was hurt, we did have this injury and that injury. And it does take longer to recover from these things than we as fans want to see. We don't understand why you went in and shit the bed on a bottom team. Like, you think that they let you down, and sometimes they do. Sometimes the effort is completely the reason.
Goaltending's been rough.
Maybe you just got outplayed. Maybe the chess match game you didn't win. There's a lot of reasons. And there is that general feeling right now that it's coming around a little more into form than the last time we said this, maybe 2 weeks ago when they were getting on a 2-3 game. And we said, it's starting to feel there's a lot of optimism. There was a lot of comfort today. I started feeling very comfortable in that game immediately after we took that 2-1 lead with 7 seconds left in the first period.
Yep.
It felt way different. than any game I've watched in the last couple of days.
I thought we got this.
Yeah.
After Bratt's goal, it was like, all right.
If you guys look at the last couple of games that we've lost to teams that we shouldn't have lost to, the next day they're beating the teams that are above us. To say it's weird. Yeah. Like the last 3 games, I think it was it might have been Columbus, San Jose. Or not. San Jose was definitely one of them. But if you watched, they came, we lost to them, we were pissed off. But then they would go lose to beat the Rangers the next night. Or
Edmonton.
Chris Farthel played with Anaheim too, right? They had turned it on and beat a couple. So these are still professional hockey teams,
right?
Who all want to win, and to a man, everyone on that team is competitive in their own right, or maybe playing for their next contract, or playing for just because that's the will that they have to play. So we do take it for granted, and we kind of jump on things. But then again, we're trying to report on this shit, right? So what are we going to do?
That was a good letter, though.
What's that, Tom?
That was a good letter, though. I mean, that was cool that someone took that time.
Nah, it was well thought out.
Yeah, it was an excellent letter, and that's why I like one of the things like doing this podcast. First of all, we've all been friends for over 30 freaking years. I mean, like a really long time.
15 years. 15 years.
Yeah. Well, me and you, Bob. I mean,
I love Auto-Tone.
Like we met in 8th grade, the first day of school in 8th grade. Like, I mean,
you guys were older than me 50. In high school.
What's that?
We're still older
than me in high school. Like you guys were like up in the grades. I was the younger.
Yeah, you were younger. You graduated 2 years behind us, right?
It's a lifetime of changes from 8th grade.
Yeah, but I mean, like I forgot what the hell my point was that I was going to make.
We've known each other for a long time, and
you said doing this podcast.
Thank you. Okay, so like we're doing this show. Like I want to do this podcast mainly to talk to my friends about hockey, and in that we ended up, meeting some awesome people, and just other Devil fans. I just love the community. Like I love that you get these messages from people. Like, dude, I mean, you know how hard that's got to be. Being in Toronto and being a Devil fan, you know what I mean?
Being a Devils fan.
Well, I mean, there's probably
about the same.
Quite a few hockey fans, though. Like you probably have like a mix.
According to our downloads, we have a lot of fans in Lithuania.
We have one. He just downloads a lot.
Yeah, just want to download. Though, but I think for people who listen who don't know us, like we were like, what's cool is 94, 95, all of us guys that you hear on the show, we were all having our hearts broken or together, like watching these games in Chris's basement. I'll never forget when Lemieux scored the deflection goal off the back. I mean, I even saying it, man, I kind of get that feeling about it was just awesome. I remember just the memories from back then. We were around when all that was happening. It was so cool because we all knew what 94 felt like how devastating that was and how it was in that town in Tom's River and stuff in Bricktown, because we were overrun by Ranger fans a lot. I mean, it was pretty much the way it was. And if you were a Devil fan, it was kind of like, you
were a minority.
You were the Mets to the Yankees. I hate to say that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, there were not a lot of Devil fans around this area back then.
You wore it with pride, I mean, you wore it. It was really. You saw a Devil's hat, you're like, hell yeah, because there was shitloads of Ranger stuff everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, to Chris's point about some of these people writing in, I got to say, you could sit here and say that, hey, anybody could start a podcast, whatever, get behind a microphone and start talking. And to some extent, that's true. But I'm here to tell you that there's actually a lot of work that goes into this, right? There's a lot of preparation. You have to watch the games. You have to come up with kind of compelling arguments. It is work. To a degree. It's fun because we're all good friends, and that's exactly why, again, Chris wanted to start this, just so we can sit around and talk. But the reward for me is starting now. About a year in, right, Chris? You guys started, November last year? So we're just over a year in, and to get an occasional email, to get the responses on Twitter, to be part of the community. And we're earlier where we had, less followers and less going on. It was really hard to just get any kind of reaction or interaction.
Right.
And I really like that part is coming up, and really am not worried about any fans that have altering views of ours. I think that's even better. Let's talk about it. Just to me, that's just the most rewarding part, because again, it is a lot of work. It is time consuming. It's rewarding, but it's getting better. So I love when the fans writing in that. The guy, that letter, I joked about, I hope it was voice to text, but seriously, that took a while to write. That was thought
time
out.
And that's think awesome. It out and write it. Yeah, it is awesome. And, so to all of our listeners, like Bobby said, we all might have differences of opinions on certain things, but that's okay. We're all Devil fans. And that's it. We just want to see this team win a Stanley Cup. Some of us want to see them win the first cup that, you've never seen before. You want to see them win it. And we just want to see them win number 4. So, but before we wrap up for tonight, quick, we're going to be back tomorrow for after the Bruins game. So what do you guys expect? I mean, you think we're going to pull off 2 games in a row where we look like world beaters like tonight?
So I think one of my predictions for the week was that it would go to overtime. That was it. Very simply, that it would go to overtime. And I'm guilty of doing this as a fan, but I'm looking at this game now. And I'm saying, fuck that. There's no overtime. I think we're gonna win this game, and I think it's not going to be quite as easy as this game, but maybe by a goal or two. I think we're going to see the same team at least. Maybe we still wind up losing, even though we're playing that. But that's where I'm going with this. I'm confident they're going to come out swinging tomorrow.
I hope I'm wrong about my pick for this game. So, because I do remember that I did picture the Devils probably dropping this one out of the 3 games. So,
You actually wrote that the Devils will beat the Blue Jackets and Ottawa. They will lose to Boston. Bobby said that the Bruins game will go to overtime. I said the Devils will be 100% on the penalty kill, and so far so good. They don't let anything in tomorrow night.
That's good. That's a hat trick too.
Yeah. I did say that Simone Nemec was going to get the game winner tonight. He didn't. That went to Dawson Mercer.
Did Dan pick the shutout again this week? I was trying to remember.
He did.
Of course
he did. He's going to pick the shutout every fucking week, Tony, until he gets one.
Like I told him, it's bad math.
Mortal Kombat.
At most, he's going to win that 4 times. So it's
I think he'll stop picking it once they get one.
I don't know. I'm not sure he's really onto it.
Yeah, maybe.
All right. So hey, before we go, then I just want to leave you with a question. Speaking of Mercer, because I don't know how the guy got that puck so vert from that close in. Right. So here's the thing: you have no more time. The season ends today. You've seen what you've seen. You have one of 2 choices. Toffoli for 2 more years or Mercer for 2 more years. That's it. No guarantee after that. Either one of them can walk. But you want to win a cup. This season's over. Who's it going to be?
Toffoli. I'm going to go with Toffoli. It's a shitty. It's just a shitty.
It's meant to be
answer.
shitty.
It's
because Mercer's a long term.
And I love Dawson Mercer. I love everything that he brings to this team. But as far as I think a consistent goal scorer, we don't have too many guys on this team that are just have wicked slap shots that can score from pretty much anywhere on the ice. And Tyler Toffoli is one of them. So I would say if it's only 2 years, I'm going to go with Tyler Toffoli. If you're saying one of them has to go and the other one's getting locked up long term, 5, 6, 7 years, I might go with Mercer.
Well, that's the flip side. Then if I flip it and say, okay, now it's 6, 7 years, or even 5 years, then
if it was under 2 or under Toffoli, if it was more than that, I'd probably go with Mercer. So I'm just completely
again, in this situation. It's one of them has to go, right? So Tony, what do you think?
I'm going to kind of say what Chris says. I'm going to stay with Mercer if he is long term. Thing with Mercer is the guy hasn't missed a game since he's first stepped on the ice. Man. I mean, and he's having an impressive, like we said earlier in the show, he's kind of having you didn't notice it right away because the way the season started for him, he's having a decent season. He seems to be getting better and better as the season goes on. So I'm going to go with Mercer. I love Toffoli though. I mean, it's not easy. You could be wrong either way. It's like, either way.
You can't go wrong. What do you think, Bob?
Well, I was originally going to reserve my judgment for later as the person who asked the question. Sometimes we get to do that. But no, I think that even with a 2-year window, I think I'm going to go with Mercer. When he shows me things that I want to see, they are usually quite awesome. I mean, not many people make that goal like he made today. And I know what Toffoli brings. But as you guys know, I'm also a big fan of another player who's got a pretty decent slap shot that can fill a void in different ways. So I really wanted to hold off on this because I want to ask our fans too. Maybe a couple people can write in about this, who they would take just for the next 2 years. But I'll go with Mercer.
I like that. I think you should post that on the Pucker site next tomorrow, and let's get some feedback, and we can read what people write tomorrow after the Bruins show. And again, for anybody else, if you are a Devil fan and you live outside of the metropolitan area, please let us know how you became a fan, what it's like being a fan where you are. And
hate the Devils, tell us.
Yeah, I guess you could do that. We're trying to kind of go for positive, but if
I
you
would
hate
wonder
the
if
Devils,
anybody
you
who
can
hates the
tell us
Devils
too.
listens to this show.
Nobody hate listens.
People
to
who
us.
like the Devils don't listen to this show.
That's true. But yeah, let us know. You can DM us on social media, or you can reach us at unclepuckers@gmail.com, and we will be sure to definitely read them and get back to you guys. So thank you to all of our listeners. We appreciate you guys wherever you're listening to us. A subscription, a download, a 5-star review, a positive comment goes a long way. Help us promote this show. And guys, we winning tomorrow? Tony's down. No.
3. That's 4 in a row, right?
you okay? So you're going.
Tony's going to forego a game
against
point?
myself, and I need to.
Wow.
I want to get.
I would totally forego a game point for a win. Absolutely.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So Tony, do you think we're going to pull it off?
Yeah, after tonight's game, I'm going to say, I think I'm going to go 5-4 on this one.
All right.
And I'm going to go. You know what? Let's go with Meyer as the game winner.
Okay, I like it.
Oh,
what do you got, Bob?
Game winners too. We do win, and let's see, 4-2. Game winners, Nemec. Empty net by Hischier.
Oh, empty net by Hischier?
Sure. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
So Nemec with the game
official
winner,
game winner 3-2.
Hischier with the empty netter. All right, I'm going to keep the good vibes going. After seeing how they played tonight, yeah, I think they're going to go into Boston. They're going to win. Maybe not as dominant. I'm going to say a 3-2 win. It'll be a close one. It'll be 3-2. It'll be in regulation. We're going to get the 2 points in regulation, game winner. I'm going to stick with the hot hand here. Jesper Bratt gets the game winner.
Zaka score tomorrow night?
Zaka, yeah. I mean, it is fitting that Severson, I think, was the only former Devil to not score against us. Yeah. So, I'll say Pavel Zaka gets the first goal, and it'll be the first goal of the game because we can't score first. So it'll be Pavel Zaka against his old team, but then we'll rally. We'll get 3, and Vitek will play well. So
I did see Jesper Boquist scored against Schmid tonight, I believe, in Utica.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I believe because he's down with Providence.
Providence, yeah.
That's awesome. We want to go up there and watch some games, man.
Yeah, you know what?
It was so fun. I walked out of my dorm. I had a 5-minute walk to an AHL arena.
That's awesome.
I mean,
it was
that's
fun.
Just awesome.
It was fun. We went up there. I mean, we only went to a handful of games, but it was always a good time up there.
I was a slingshot crew, man. We were one of the first people to do slingshot.
Bobby used to come sliding out in between intermissions with his fucking slingshots with T-shirts and his T-shirt going. Oh, what a tool.
Oh, come on. They loved it.
One of the dudes that you were with, I remember, to come out and slide on his belly onto the ice.
Yeah, that was John. He was the leader. It was his. He worked in marketing. That was him. He did that.
That was awesome. But all right, so thanks so much for checking us out tonight. We are the Uncle Puckers for Tony and Bobby, and we'll see you when we see you. Later, skaters.
Oh, and he's Chris.
I am Chris. There's no outro, Bob.
There's no outro.
So no. Bobby used to. Oh, we're still
going. There's no outro.
Yeah,
Bobby used to fling shirts at the games, huh? You were one of those guys.
He used to fling.
I couldn't ice skate worth of shit, so I just